Guess we're live. I guess this mic's on, so it's go time. Thank you all for coming out today. It's great to see so many familiar friends and faces. We really appreciate the support and everyone taking the time. It's going to be an incredibly exciting morning. We have great thought leaders, great industry leaders. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope everyone enjoys it. To kick things off, I'm Chad Stender. I'm the Director of Operations and Investments at 76 Capital. We're really fortunate to get to partner with the Arizona State University Global Sport Institute, headed by Ken Shropshire, who's one of Philly's finest. He was at Wharton for 30 years. He's honestly a legend in the industry. He literally wrote the book on sport business and sport management. So we're in for a real treat. We're honored to partner with him. And it's the Global Sport Institute. We could have done this anywhere in the world. And of course, we're doing it in Philly. Hopefully, it's the first of many to come. But it's an exciting time for Philly, I got to say it. Super Bowl champs. Rookie of the Year. And the Phillies are about to pop off. So everything's going great. Really excited to be here. So 76 Capital, we're a sports tech venture capital fund. We're focused on investing in what's next. And obviously, you're going to hear from some of our companies today, and you're going to hear on some of the industries and the trends that we're focused on. Esports, the legalization of sports betting, wearables, sensors, what's going to happen, how sports and retail going to converge. It's going to be really exciting. Hashtag sports tech VC. Use it, post a lot. We want to see it. Plenty of shout outs, that would be great. Special welcome to the Wharton Sports Business Academy. They were able to bring over 100 students out today, high school students that are all interested and focused on what's next in sport management, sport business. We're excited to have you here, literally from all over the world. Welcome to Philadelphia. It should be a lot of fun for you. Now is the time if you're interested in working in sports, if you're interested in a career in sports. So you should learn a lot. It should be a lot of fun. Thank you to our close friends, Julie and Krinsky, that are working in conjunction with Wharton Sports Business. They also are partner with us at Nerd Street Gamers, our esports company. So they have a camp going on as well. So always big thanks to Julie and Krinsky. To Bear Crossy McDemas, we're going to hear from Rob in the second panel. Big thanks to Bear Crossy for backing us, for being here today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Rob spent time at Comcast Spectacor running on the legal side, everything with the legalization of esports. And now he's at Bear Crossy as a partner leading what they're going to do around esports and everything moving forward. Special thanks to our team for pulling this together, honestly, in a pretty short amount of time. Everyone worked hard, and we're really excited for being here today and what we have. She's going to kill me for doing this, so I'm going to do it. Happy birthday to Jessica. David? Come on, louder, louder. Jess hates that, so I really appreciate you doing that. So anything you see up there that looks good, Jessica did it. If anything's misspelled, that was probably me. So without further ado, let's get this rolling. Let's get into the first panel on the future of sports tech. Flip up. I want to make sure I do proper introductions. So one of the things that we have when we say sports tech, we are very, very fortunate, lucky, honored to have Ryan Howard as a partner. All of his accomplishments on the field don't compare to how he is as a person, as a business partner. We're just so fortunate to get to work with him day in, day out, and it's a real, real advantage. So everyone stand up, give a big round of applause for the big piece. Your house.
I'll get in the hot seat.
All right, I want everyone to stand up. No, I'm just joking. tough to follow that, Dave. One of the other sports plays that we have, we're partners with an amazing sports marketing agency that works with athletes, Olympians, celebrity chefs, and some of the top broadcasters in the business, Rubicon Talent. They're incredible partners with us. We're just beginning to uncover some of the stuff that we are doing together and that we're going to be able to do together. We're fortunate to get to hear from one of the partners. Dave Merrills, come on up. This next panelist spent years with the NBA, both here and overseas, running marketing. Just incredibly talented. We're very fortunate to get to hear from her today. She's now with, I want to get it right, Janae, Athletes First Partners. Janae Elsey, please. And from Arizona State University, helping Ken to run the program and really make it the preeminent program globally. They recently announced a huge partnership with Adidas. That's what you saw the MVP wearing on his feet last night. So without further ado, Jeff Kanowski. And the man that knows professional football in and out, you hear him on Sirius XM. He is the NFL insider, Adam Kaplan. And as I said, the man that wrote the book on sport management and sport business, I'm going to get off the stage so you can hear from him, who you want to hear from, Ken Shropshire.
All right, this is catwalk, like I could have fallen on the way up here, but hello, everybody. And actually, the co-author of the book, Scott Rosner, is here, too. He actually wrote the book. I just kind of tagged along. But so when people ask what's next, or people ask what's happening with sport and where's it going to go, for years, Scott and I have been able to answer the question, well, it depends on technology and media. I mean, it's been very simple. You can sound very smart. You can kind of just play off of whatever the new media is, new technology. I think starting after the Supreme Court ruling, you have to add betting, gambling in there as well. I mean, I think the numbers are going to be so dramatic that now it's kind of that trilogy. And I think you can almost drop media, too, and just say technology and gambling are going to be the drivers for the next decade or so until the next new thing we haven't thought of comes about. So just as a preamble, so we are charged with giving you kind of the teaser that's going to lead all the way into full-blown gaming, gambling conversation, but we're going to talk about technology. So I just want to throw a couple general questions out first, give everybody kind of a chance to jump in, and I've got some specifics for each of us, and we're going to kind of do lightning roundish kinds of answers because we've got a short period of time. But let's think about this first in terms of investing. Just from your background, wherever you're from, where in technology related to sports should people be investing now? Where should people be investing now? Don't worry, we're not going to run out and take your state secrets from you. Right?
I guess I'll jump on that one. I think where should people be investing? I mean, right now, we live in this informational age. It's all about the analytics. It's all about the wearables. It's about trying to figure out, okay, how do you get the best out of your athletes? As I played, we started doing a lot of different stuff with figuring out, okay, what are guys' sleep patterns? What are they eating? What is this? What is that? So I think a lot of the different stuff, obviously, right now in terms of the wearables that are out, play a huge factor. I think there's going to be a lot more stuff. It's tough, a little bit tough to tell at times, but I think there's going to be a little bit more stuff in that realm that is going to be
wearables related to performance.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, related to performance. Yeah.
And I'd add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's got the big magic wand to interpret the data once they get it. I mean, there's a real shortage of what to do with it once you
Right.
get it. So that would be a magic place to to make an investment? But other thoughts, maybe Janae, maybe around the globe, what kinds of things are you thinking about?
I would think not cryptocurrency because I don't understand much of that.
Don't invest in anything you don't understand. Rule number one.
I would say content and specific to discovery. I think there's a ton of content out there, certainly being on the league side and seeing that really it's a global phenomenon still. Content has been king for decades and it still is.
Right.
But what's getting really, really difficult, and anybody who has Netflix or Hulu or anything can understand this, is just finding the content. There's so much out there. And when you talk about athletes specifically, there's a lot of great content. There's a lot of not so great content out there. So anywhere that really kind of helps make it easier for people to digest is a good place to be.
So Dave, what do you have, what do you see guys going to, the athletes that you represent? What kinds of things, and it may not be necessarily the right place, but what are guys and women interested in? What seems to be trending?
Right, coming from the athlete side and representing the athletes, what we always tell them, and we're not necessarily their investment advisors, that's why we work with 76 Capital to help educate our athletes on what to do. But
We're going to have the 76 Capital drinking game, the number of times 76 Capital.
first mention. What we do is, what are you passionate about? You know, I think athletes are always viewed as health and wellness experts because they get a lot out of their body more than maybe the average Joe. But health and wellness, tech, those worlds coming together.
Right.
Number one thing is, what are you passionate about, and what do you want to have influence on? How can you leverage that platform, have the influence? It's pretty basic and generic, but what you love and what you're most passionate about is probably what you'll be most successful with. So what you're passionate about, I think the information around health and wellness, I think we see a lot of athletes putting a lot more time outside the training facility into their personal health, and tech and the data that you get is starting to become an edge, a differentiator for the athletes for their performance, but then also off the field, they can speak to the masses and talk about how they get the most out of themselves. So generally we go with what are you passionate about and start from there and see where the opportunities are.
Adam, your thoughts, and especially injury-wise, what's out there?
So I think, Ken, the next thing is when we look at the wearable technology, we know about next-gen stats. That's the ability to put a meter on a player and be able to tell how fast he runs, how far the quarterback throws, these so-called air yards. Now, the next thing is for injury tracking. The NFL comes up with their numbers every year. All they could really tell you is, okay, there were 101 ACL injuries. But what they don't know is, or what they wanted to learn is, how long are they taking? Are players coming back in a shorter time? When you and I were growing up, if you had an ACL injury, remember Bernard King of the Knicks, he tore his ACL, almost took him 2 years to come back. Now players are coming back from 9 to 12 months. And you've got a guy like Carson Wentz who might beat that timeline. So I think what the league now needs to really pinpoint it with injury tracking and reporting, how long could this player come back? Because when you ask a doctor, he'll go, oh, okay, here's the estimate. He has a grade 2 MCL sprain. He'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks. Well, we'd like to know if he's going to be available in 2 weeks. And that's the thing they've got to kind of pinpoint a little bit better. But the wearable technology now is big. We know in baseball, we've got the exit velocity on how far and how fast that ball was hit. What we need now is not only how fast that throw was, but overall, when you take sort of a macro view of every single play, that's what the analytics people want. They want what the eye cannot see. That's where football is going. We have the all-22 tape where you see the entire field. Well, they want to know what the numbers mean. And that's the next thing is wearable technology to me is the next big thing. They're doing it. They've done it for a couple of years. And the NFL came up with next-gen stats last season. From what I'm hearing, this season, it's going to be incredible. And I can't wait to see what they're going to come out with.
Adam, I want to come back to you in a minute and talk to you about that and gambling, where the connection might be. But Jeff, on the smaller end, so the Global Sport Institute actually funds kind of lower cost sports ventures. What kinds of things are, in some ways, the most creative people thinking about that maybe hasn't percolated up yet? What kinds of things are you seeing come through our process?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities to some of the comments that have already been made as far as wearables and the data coming off of wearables. You know, everybody has a phone in their pocket. A lot of people have Fitbits, and there's so much data being pushed out there. And a lot of the ventures that we've seen come through in our latest cohort, they're looking to tap into that technology not reinvent the wheel and create wearables, but actually use that data, manipulate that data, and use that to increase human performance, athlete performance. And so that's been a pretty relevant space for our latest cohort.
So Ryan, why it seems to be an extra passion by you in particular, but athletes in general, for this sports tech space. Why do you see that? What causes that to occur?
I think it's a new age. It's a new age. I've already said before in terms of going off and actually being an entrepreneur. Athletes now have a different platform, right? So being able to use these platforms to be able to reach these different companies, reach different people, getting out, understanding the information that comes back from, like we were saying before, kind of like these wearables and this and that or whatever. Yeah, you're helping to kind of move a product, but you're also getting that understanding of, okay, what's going on with me? What's going on with my body? I personally, love this space because it's so wide open, because there's so many different opportunities that can come to be to where you're looking for the next best thing, and it's constantly being in search of trying to find that next best thing.
And Dave, how do you help athletes? You mentioned 76 Capital, of course, but how else do you help athletes make sure they do the right thing? How do you help them evaluate the deals that they get approached, as everybody knows.
Right.
We did a program at Wharton for years, and we would always say, you're always offered restaurant, bars, and nightclubs. Nobody ever comes to me with that. Why are you so fortunate to have these opportunities to invest in these things? What's so special about you that the regular guy or even this billionaire doesn't have a chance to do the things you have to do?
Right. I mean, beyond what I said before about having passion in that particular space, obviously you need to believe in the business, the people behind it, and vetting them out. It's not going to happen overnight. It could be. I mean, you're going to, as an athlete, you have a lot of things coming across your desk or in your inbox, and for us, we needed a way to vet out these opportunities, but also see new and different cutting-edge, forward-thinking opportunities. What we try to do is show them what's out there, learn their passions, what's authentic, where can you have real impact, and what do you believe in, and align with those sort of companies and those ideas. I think it's important to have a lot of ideas, but also be focused on what you really care about and go deep in a few and not just go too wide. So that's typically how we.
And Janae, why don't you tell us a little bit about Think 450, and what you're engaged in quite a bit, and then if you can talk about any special technology connections that you have with that venture thus far.
Yeah. So Athletes First Partners has partnered with Think 450, which is the marketing arm of the National Basketball Players Association. You really can't ask for a better partner than that.
So not just one athlete, but
all 450.
450.
So we represent the sales and marketing rights of the collective. So all 450 players. And what's really exciting about that is that you've got players from all over the globe. So about a quarter of the league is actually from outside the U.S. So when you talk about tech and the opportunities, it goes far beyond the U.S. borders. And so if we look at different places like Tel Aviv and Singapore and London, where there's a lot of opportunities in that space, in the tech space, now you have players that are going back to their home countries. They're already huge in that country, and they're seeing the same opportunities that you're seeing here that used to only exist in Silicon Valley. So when we start working with a lot of the players in the tech space, we start having global conversations rather than just focused on the U.S. So I think that, to me, was what is the most exciting. And the way that we work with Think 450 is we know everything that there is to know about all of the players and everything that players' passions, what they're interested in, who's interested in investing, who's interested in being more than a brand ambassador, that is interested in really starting to grow their own individual businesses. So I think it's for us it's a really exciting time, and it's only just started for us. 4 months into the partnership.
And Jeff, especially for the 100 kids that are here, you got the next great idea. How do you get started? What are the first steps you should take? I mean, we all, many of us have passed that moment of being, 19, 20, and we come up with a great idea and we're done. We've made all the money we need to make. How can you put yourself in position to be that kid?
Yeah, I think we all come across ideas that we feel could be winning businesses, and I think the main thing that it takes is taking action. I think everybody has ideas, everybody has a better way of doing something, and I think if you can identify that idea and base it off of what you know, what your surroundings are, maybe look within your realm and innovate within your realm. And then take action, seek resources, reach out to me, reach out to the Global Sport Institute. That's what our innovation programs are all about. And here locally, I'm sure there are quite a few programs through Wharton and through other programs as well. But there's plenty of resources out there, and that first step I think is key, is taking action, doing your research, reaching out to folks that are experts in that field, and make sure that you're passionate about what you're pursuing, because the late nights and long hours are going to stack up, and you want to make sure that you can fall back on that passion when it gets tough.
And think low tech too. We funded a company called Billy Bars, which is so simple. It's removable, easily removable handlebars from a bicycle, so you can store it in your dorm room without taking up a lot of space. I mean, it's those kinds of ideas that can be the next big hit. And kind of low tech, we're kind of straining thinking about the higher level, bigger tech pieces, but those kinds of ideas can be successful as well. And there are dozens of programs around locally, dozens of programs wherever you're from that you can get to support the ideas that you have. And more important than the money is people that have done it before that can guide you along the way. So Adam, not a low budget investor, but the NFL. You mentioned some of the things related to injuries and tracking. What else does the NFL have going on technology-wise? And there's been, I guess there's this fund that's existed sort of for a while. They talk about big investing. But what other tech stuff is going on in that
So
side?
Ken, when we look at the injury stuff, they invested in helmet companies. My friends at Visus, that's a company really right now has got the best helmet. I actually have one in my office. It's incredible. You cannot prevent a concussion, but you could help lessen the impact on the brain. And that's kind of what the league wants, and that's where they're going here. As you mentioned, they're investing a lot of money in it, and they have, they look at a lot of companies and they pick the best ones. Virtual reality, to me, is one of the next big things we talked about earlier with wearable technology. Quarterbacks now, because we talked about the all-22 tape, you can see it, but you can't see everything on all 22. So with virtual reality, you've got that 360 view where the quarterback's brought into it. It's really cool. I've actually put the set on. It's mind-blowing. If you ever get a chance to see it, you will look at the NFL differently. And that's where it's going. The NFL now wants to take vision of what they can't see to the next level. And I think virtual reality, artificial intelligence, we talked about next-gen stats. That's the next big thing, I think, Ken, in the National Football League.
So, and that's been hovering for a while. I was actually going to ask, nobody had really mentioned virtual reality and artificial intelligence, and so I guess that's not the answer. But one of my questions is, what are investors too late for now? I mean, what's already down the road that might seem to be something to get into, but it's not anymore? Is that AI in VR? Is there anything new? Is there a space for anybody? And what else is gone by the wayside?
I know you were talking about with Ryan. Wearables to me is something that the NFL's new to. They've had it around for a couple of years, but it's got to be further developed. I think it's companies getting in there to find other ways to use it, and it's not just you're going to wear it inside your helmet. We know in baseball there's certain statistics that without different technology you'd never be able to know about certain ways you would watch tape. Like I was talking to Reese Hoskins before we got in here, and he was talking about how he'd get into his preparation early, get to the stadium. Right. He needed that information so he could see what the eyes can't tell him. And that's kind of, Ken, where I think where this league's going, and all these new companies that are coming in. We talk about the safety for the helmets. I think it's to answer your question, I think it's absolutely connected to wearable technology. I don't think there are enough companies out there that are doing it. I only know of like 2 or 3 that are sort of involved with it. The NFL would know better than I would, but I think that's, to me, wearable technology is the big thing that's coming to the National Football League.
And I think from a VR perspective, since you brought up VR, I think what has to happen is it's maybe the first wave is, you're too late for the first
Right.
wave, but there's really got to be a pretty significant shift in consumer behavior before VR kind of takes that next step. I look at it like 3D. Everybody was all excited about investing in 3D.
Who has 3D TVs? Anybody can buy one of those things,
See?
right?
And so until people really can get to the point where wearing the virtual
Right.
headsets is something that's cool and natural and something that they can do, I think you really have kind of hit your peak at VR.
Can I add one thing? I was
Sure.
at the NFL office in 2010. It just happened to be the day that Verizon brought their 3D technology, and they wanted the NFL to see it, and they asked me to, I sat in a room with a bunch of people and watched it. Janae just talked about it. It was so clunky and so big. I'm like, this will never work. I'm pretty fearless, so I didn't care what they thought. I was like, look, guys, if you want to bring this to market, get something that's smaller. And then, as you said, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Great idea, though. It's really cool, but it's too big.
Okay.
So the NFL is also beyond the virtual reality and the AI, but still in the tech world, social and communication via the players. The NFL has invested a ton of time and money into it. They're doing a lot more with the players, educating them about of course, their access that always sells, but how they distribute their content and where they're distributing it and being more strategic on how they do it. So they've invested a lot internally to communicate with the players, to teach them, to do broadcasting boot camps, to do financial literacy. I mean, they're investing more in the players over the last few years. We see a lot of that, and they, of course, do it through their agents and their reps and anyone else at the union.
So I do want to kind of tee up the gambling conversation. We've talked a lot about technology and certainly the technology and injuries and that issue. But what's the intersection going to be? I mean, apart from the greatest gaming machine, that sort of thing, but really in terms of advantages, problems. I mean, where's this whole technology and gambling thing going to merge, and where could we see both positives and where can we see problems? Just anybody.
I'll take the first one. I mean, I see, of course, I see on the player side, we're kind of waiting patiently to see how and what the players will be allowed to do as it relates to gambling. But as everyone knows, for years you've had to stay away. You really can't even do an event inside a casino or
Right.
a partnership with any sort of gaming entity. So we're waiting patiently to see what happens there. I think it's media, new media, and how it's going to integrate into programming from all the big networks and cable networks, obviously all the digital platforms. So you're going to see a lot more of it involved in programming. Obviously, the advertising is going to be that much heavier. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see the evolution of the media, and it's been going on anyway, but now it's going to be, I think, that much more mainstream and reach that many more people. So I think on air.
Janae?
I'm just fascinated to see how this all works logistically with 50 different states having different rules. So when you look at, I lived in the UK for 8 years, and betting is just everywhere there.
Right.
And the idea of in-game betting and being able to actually do that. How do you translate that here when you have different rules across state lines? Like, I'm fascinated to see how the technology can kind of help that.
So Ryan, as put on your player hat for a moment, and talk some about what you couldn't do when there wasn't technology, and then I guess social media comes in. You probably had some things you couldn't do. Now this next level of, I think, just greater pressure to engage.
It's, I think, kind of touching on what Dave was talking about. It's, I think a lot of it, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in here have heard of Pete Rose, and that whole situation. As a player, to me, it was, you don't want to end up like that.
Right.
it's going to be interesting to see, like Dave said, kind of what players are allowed and what they're not allowed to do. I've always thought, the fantasy leagues kind of changed the landscape at first, and fans, I felt like once, the fantasy leagues were introduced, it's like, man, these fans are a little, they're starting to turn a little bit. You hear all the time, oh man, Brian, you helped me win my fantasy league and do this, and then all of a sudden you have a bad game, like, you're killing me, Howard. It's one of those things. But now that it's legalized, it's going to be a whole different can of worms, and it's going to be interesting to see how the government continues to allow the states to regulate it, and how the sports go about letting the athletes partake or not partake in certain things.
I would also add, just
Sure.
Wouldn't discount the physical locations of venues like sports books and things like that. I think there's a lot of room for innovation within physical betting locations. You're looking at new display technologies, new ways to display what's going on instead of your standard tracker boards and LCD screens. There's modular LED displays. There's maybe there's a virtual reality play there as well, and just I think there's a lot of opportunity there in the physical realm as well, not just the digital media landscape.
Yeah, I mean, the technology of actually being able to gamble at the venues, to gamble at the games, what the rules are going to be. Can you gamble on the next play? I mean, all those sorts of
Oh
things.
yeah, oh yeah.
On
telling
the
you,
heels
it's
of
coming.
what he said, I think that the experiential element of gambling in venue, around the venue will change. Experiential has always been a hot thing for sponsors, trying to reach consumers. And now that you can kind of integrate that, you'll see that at not just gaming venues, but obviously sports events and arenas. So it should be pretty interesting to see how.
Adam, what about where's the NFL on thinking about the future on this and how to play things?
Well, in the last year, from talking to people there, they've been talking about it internally, and they've, just in case it would happen, and now we know it's going to happen, but just to give you an idea of kind of the connection of gambling and actually on the NFL and so forth. On LinkedIn, during the NFL regular season, I would get contacted easily by these handicappers. I don't know how many, at least a dozen of them. Hey, could you help me if I pay as a consultant? I was like, guys, I can't touch this stuff because I work for ESPN and I can't do that. Now, I can do it when my contract expires in a month. If I want to get involved in it, we'll see. It's something I never thought I would get involved with, but because of my knowledge of the business, I must well use it for something. So I have to kind of look into me personally, and anyone who covers the NFL, it's a tough call because there's a line you don't cross, but it's something that we all talk about. It's been in the newspaper since I was a kid. So it's a decision. I wonder if the NFL, how involved they'll get. The NFL is involved with DraftKings. Several teams are backing them. How far are they willing to go to make money? And we know the NFL loves to make money, so I'm very interested to see what they do here.
So we talked about kind of what's hot now, what to invest in now. We talked about what may be about over. What's next? What may be a little bit early to get into now, but what could be on the horizon in terms of the types of things that are there? I mean, I kind of gave away my data interpretation kind of space. I think is big there. So beyond just the gambling space, but technology overall, what kinds of things might we see, or do we need to see going forward? And Ryan, maybe we can start with you again, just in terms of players. I mean, what would be some great technology to have in terms of improving performance?
Man, I mean, I guess it all varies. It all varies. I mean, we've talked about VR, AR, talked about wearables. I mean, it varies, I think, from everybody. So I mean, putting my player hat on, I'm at this point, like, I'm not really sure. That's why you're looking for the next best thing to come along, and looking at how the information is processed is probably going to be what leads to that next best thing. What are we looking to use it for? So it's kind of hard to try to pick that out here right now, but I think eventually that information will kind of just lead to that thing.
Janae, the future, what's around the globe, what kinds of things could be next? I mean, what's going to make the world smaller technology-wise in sport?
I think one is the connection, the tighter connection of social media and e-commerce. I think if you look at players, leagues, enterprises' abilities to actually monetize social content, that's going to be really important, especially as you start thinking about players that can have direct audiences and direct conversations with anywhere in the world in whatever language that they want to speak. And for them to be able to say, it's not just about, posting my social profile. Now it's about how do I actually make sure that all these brands that are making money off of me, I can make that same kind of money. So people keep talking about monetizing social, and I don't think we've quite cracked that yet.
Okay. And again, I think we talked a lot about what technology and what players, what pressure players will have in the future in terms of gambling and technology. But the social media part, I think, is so understated in terms of where it can play and the kind of monitoring that could take place in social media to figure out what the right move is based on what somebody tweets or what somebody posts on Instagram or whatever it might be.
I think from an athlete perspective, for the last 10 years, we were constantly meeting new agencies, social agencies, digital agencies, saying, I'm going to help your athletes or your clients monetize their social media. It's here, it's now. Plenty of athletes are making money on social, but to take it a step further, and like what she said, I think retail and e-commerce, having a diverse revenue stream as an athlete, not just it being corporate relationships, not just having your on-the-field income, but a variety of different revenue streams, building out these businesses. Athletes are way smarter and way more advanced business people now than they were 15 years ago. They have 5, 6, 7 people on their team. They're all specialists. It's no longer one quarterback, if you will, and then a lot of people kind of around them. They have teams. They're specialized, and the different revenue streams, I think, for the athletes is starting to pay off, and investing in your access and how you distribute it is really, I'm starting to see a variety of revenue streams for the guys that really apply themselves in the space.
And for the 76 Capital commercial that I want to make sure we put out there, we talked about kind of at the level of the entrepreneurs that want to get started and thinking about innovation labs and those sorts of things. But how do you evaluate deals that come to you? I mean, in your capacity now as the investor, how do you look at tech? I'm asking the future question, and you sort of gave you know when you see it, or we don't know what it's going to be. But when it does come in the room, how do you know it is the next thing?
Well, I think it starts with the person. For me, obviously, coming from the athletic field, I like to look at the attributes of, okay, I knew what it took for me as an athlete to be able to succeed. Does this person have the work ethic? Does this person have the drive? Does this person have the desire? First off, is this person a nice person? Is it a good person? Is it a like-minded person of what it is that we're trying to accomplish together? Because it's going to take a team to be able to help this to grow. And if those all fit the mold, let's look at what you're working on. That's where it starts first. Is there a fit? Is there, okay, how is this going to change the world? Is this something, you got to be slightly crazy, because, it's got to be something that's got to be, 5, 10, we're looking 5, 10, potentially, hopefully 5 to 10 years out. But you got to be slightly crazy, and we got to look at you a little strange to say, okay, hey, this might make sense. But we want to understand that there's got to be a good fit. There's got to be a need. There's got to be a niche for it to be able to move on in that direction.
Yeah, to add to what Ryan was saying, I think it's also complementary relationships and networks. When you're looking at an investment and you're an athlete, what this company is looking to do I believe in them? Do I believe in the product? Yes. But does my network complement what they're looking to do? Do I have access to maybe things that they don't? Do they have access to maybe things that we don't, that we can make 1 + 1 = 3 and not just 2? And finding, without, not to use too many buzzwords, but the real synergy between what the product is, what the tech is, and what the network is on the other side, and coming together to make that a larger sum.
The last question I want to ask, and I think we might have time for one or two questions. If not, they'll give me the hook. But Adam, in terms of technology and the impact on ratings for the NFL, I mean, that's sort of been a lot of the conversation about people transitioning away from traditional ways of watching sport, and we don't have the greatest way of tracking if people are still viewing on these devices and otherwise. What do you see in coming years? But first, in terms of being able to track, the old Nielsen's aren't giving us what we used to get, and then second, is there some negative impact because people have so many options?
Yeah, I think when you look at Amazon getting into it, Twitter getting into it, the NFL wanted to see, as we talk here today about the next technology, what's the next thing that would move everything forward? And they've had Twitter, they've had games on Twitter, they've had it on Amazon. The numbers aren't huge; they're growing. The biggest challenge that they're having is, and a lot of us know this if you've ever watched a game on there, screen size, buffering, get it cleaner. And this is something that they're working on in the offseason because with cord cutting, we want to find a different way to spend our money. And if it's cheaper sometimes doesn't mean better. And I think that's the challenge now for every company that's doing this. And I think that's what we're going to see over the next 4 to 5 years. Other companies are going to get in the game there. We know about Netflix. Do they get involved with it? To me, the NFL will talk to anyone who's interested, but it's got to be for the fan and the viewing pleasure that we have. It's got to be something that is not going to slow us up. And I think that is what I've seen personally when I've watched games on Twitter. The buffering, I watched the game on Phillies on Facebook. Okay, it could be better,
Right.
and it'll get better. They know this is when you start something new, it's not going to be perfect, but I think that's part of it. I think that to me is part of where the technology is going, and then making the game faster. I think that's where we're all going here. We know an NFL game is 3 hours. I actually called a flag football game last month at the Jets facility. That game was an hour and 45 minutes on the nose. They want to get down to an hour and a half. I also work for the Philadelphia Soul. We want to get games well under 3 hours. In fact, we want to get it closer to 2 hours. Get it done quickly, get in and out. Our attention spans are very short. We all know that. NFL teams are the same way. Meetings. Let's go. Next meeting. We all do this in our businesses. So it's make it faster, make it more pleasurable, enjoyable, and that's where I think it's going.
So who's in charge here? Do I have time for a question or two? All right. Please stand up and speak loudly.
In sports tech, in which, like regular gaming or just?
So let me try to paraphrase this. So any methodology that's increased fan engagement in gaming? Have we seen anything that's doing that? So the next panel may do a better job with that than us. But if anybody has any ideas on that. We'll do better on your question than we did on that.
Yeah.
Please. Let me paraphrase it. Let me paraphrase it a little bit because you're reaching speech as opposed to question phase. But let me paraphrase it a little bit. Yeah, well, you're getting close. You're getting close. But no, you're getting close. So the question is, and I think a good way to think about it, I think it's a great question. Do athletes have any greater protections than any other investors in terms of going into these things? And maybe an add-on to it is, should there be any greater protections? I mean, apart from the people you surround yourselves with, and as part of the question I throw in there too, is there any kind of insurance product or anything else out there that could help athletes out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and the answer is yes. I mean, traditionally, and Ryan knows this, an athlete will have a contract agent, a marketing and off-the-field business agent, a financial advisor. If they want to be more specialized in certain areas, then they may hire other people on their team. I think it's important to know the difference between your traditional investments with your wealth manager and your venture. And also how, as an athlete, a public figure, how can you leverage that social capital to either one, get a more favorable deal than another investor, or two, the sweat equity component. What can I offer them that isn't necessarily my money, even though it can be money, right? Or thinking as an athlete, that will help the overall bottom line. I think the smart athletes separate the two, their wealth management and their estate planning, and what they're gonna do on the venture side to have some skin in the game. I think the other way is what we're starting to do, and what we have been doing, is structuring deals for the athletes that if they're traditionally going to get paid $100,000, instead of taking the $100,000 in endorsement, maybe it's half and half equity and half cash, and having some sort of downside protection, and also just doing your homework and having, know what you know and know what you don't, and having the people around you fill those voids. So just having the right team. I mean, there's companies out there that even vet financial advisors and help with financial literacy. We worked with a company yesterday, Team Ultimus, she's here, that they help vet financial advisors for athletes. So it's the education before you hire someone, because a lot of financial advisors aren't necessarily, the best guys, right? You never know. So you do hear a lot of these stories. So it starts early, education, the leagues are investing in it. There's private companies doing it. So it's knowing what is safe and knowing what's maybe a little bit more risky.
The thing I'll add to that too is most athletes, and I'm not shilling for anybody here, shouldn't do these kinds of things. I mean, most athletes are like everybody else, and Vanguard and a nice bank account is probably all you should think about, and especially because your career is so short. The blessing comes when you have that exceptional revenue stream, and you can start to think about doing these other things, just as it is with anybody else. So the guidance and the great teams are those that say, okay, let's do the basic stuff. Now you have enough where you can take these greater chances, you can take these greater risks, and maybe there's greater rewards, just like with anybody else. But the dance that exists, and we've taught courses at Wharton for years for NFL players. We've done some stuff recently, a finance boot camp for players. And that's probably the bigger message that we try to relay is you don't have to win. You don't have to have a big win in finance. All you have to have is preservation and a reasonable return. And it's exceptional when you can step out there and do something extraordinary. Sir?
Question, and for me, think of all athletes as just the big sports. But my question, I guess, is where do you guys see NASCAR? I think NASCAR, is a sport and it's pretty big in this country, even though I'm not into it. But I think for investing, is there anything along with that? And then secondly, I know it's tech, but you got leagues like the Big Three with, I think Ice Cube is backing it, and you have, I think the WWE is going to try to come back out with the XFL. So do you ever think that there will be another league that can try to rival what we consider, the top four sports leagues out there right now?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wish them all luck, though.
I mean, the last question first is kind of interesting. And again, I'll paraphrase it a little bit. Is would technology make it possible for another league to finally emerge and really compete with the existing Big Four?
Well, that's going on now. You're going to see the Alliance League. My friend Bill Polian, who worked with us at ESPN, which starts in the spring. They're not going to have kickoffs. They're going to have some different rules, and I think some of these leagues will have better technology. I mean, look, you mentioned the XFL. They were the first one to have the helmet cam. I mean, that was so innovative, and NBC ran that. That was awesome, and that's what innovation forces us to change, and it also brings about great ideas. And you're going to see this. And these new leagues, they're probably going to be 3 or 4 football leagues that come about. I don't think they'll ever make it long term, but I think the technology, I think you make a great point. I want to see what new ideas that they come up with, because we know about our friends at Shot Tracker. They're onto something. I think Shot Tracker to me is, I'm a huge NBA guy. That to me is when we talk about wearable, to figure out when we watch a game, I want it at home. I want this data at home. I don't want just billionaires to have it. I want, when I'm at home, I want to be able to touch a button. I don't have to go to my phone. Can I use the remote control to get stats, to get some information? I want to know what the play is called. I want to see someone really step out there and meet with the networks, have money behind you, and come up with a special idea that we're not getting. I think the big thing, Ken, you asked it earlier, what's next? The thing that I'm missing as a viewer at home, when I have my remote control, all I get is I hit the info button and it tells me who's playing. Why have we not been able to get more information? Why do I have to go to my phone every time? That, to me, is what I think is missing. I think people are missing a boat on that.
Janae?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it for, like you said, another football league, or even the extension of the WWE. I'm still bullish on soccer, personally. I think if you can gamify soccer through technology and make it really, because it is a beautiful and exciting sport, but there's not a lot of scoring. So
Right.
It still is not, to the point where all of the other leagues are, where there is scoring, there is action. But if you think about sort of the transactions that happen in soccer, if there's a way, and betting might be an interesting way to look at it, that might actually do it. But, I mean, you look at the World Cup now, and unfortunately, the U.S. team is not in it, but to the point where it actually gets to be really a national level sport, I think will be really exciting. I think technology can help that.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about when Fox started doing the first one to do the kind of the down lines. I forget the name of the company, but that was kind of a local company that came up with the technology to do that. But to incorporate betting in your viewing experience, if a new league could be the first to step out and do something like that,
Now you're onto something.
that could be something. Yeah. Betting on the first down. I mean, all kinds of things could come up. You push a button and, Betfair sends you $1 million check for whatever it might be. So, just dreaming up here a little bit.
Right?
Someone's going to do it.
Sir.
Michael Adams. You mentioned sports betting, and that's sort of what the topic of the conference is. How do we see sports betting sort of affecting access to information, injury reports, sort of in-game things that happen where now you see they may or may not come back in the game, unsure, and how does that sort of impact when you think about medical records and getting access to those type of things and trying to have as much info as possible? How do you think those two are going to play on each other?
I don't think we talk about HIPAA laws.
No, just talking about in terms of just the, you see sometimes with, I think football, especially where it's a bit guarded with injuries, and I think sort of betting coming into that, a lot of money.
Well, hockey is. Are you Michael Adams, who played for the Eagles? Or your son?
That's my father.
Your father, okay. Okay. So he played the game. Michael Senior played in the
You look
Eagles.
fine, though.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
Oh, you don't have any gray, but anyway. No, but NFL injury information is actually pretty easy to get. The key is, depending who your sources are, knowing if the player is going to play earlier in the week, and that's why bettors want to know, because the earlier the bettor knows, or the handicapper knows, or whoever is making the lines in Vegas or overseas, that'll help the line. That'll help them set the line. If a player gets hurt on Sunday, and you don't have that, you don't know if the guy's going to play, it's going to have to be off the board, especially if it's a quarterback. If you don't know that guy's going to play, but I think going forward now with betting, when it's going to be legalized, at least by half the country over the next couple of years, injury information will take on a broader scope. But I find it interesting, though, ironically, in hockey, they won't tell you what it is. All they say is lower body injury, whatever that is. I can't believe that. But I think to answer your question, it's always been there, and I don't think anything's going to stop it.
Last question, sir.
Matt Bradwell, Stadiums Management background. So there's no shortage of positive PR on esports right now. I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago. It's astounding how quickly like that pyramid went up and became gorgeous. So like, even if it's not an opinion that you guys hold, just for the sake of our professional acumen, you give us the pessimist view on esports. All I hear is great things.
All right, who wants to step out and say something
I've
about esports?
seen great things with esports and e-gaming, just period. I actually went out to LA and actually go see an Overwatch match, and was like the first one I went to, was thoroughly surprised. Like, I never knew. Growing up playing video games, I used to get yelled at all the time, like for playing. And it's now I've watched how games have evolved from when I was a kid to watching my son play. He loves playing FIFA, and but just the everything that comes with that game, it's more of a teaching tool. Because I'm watching him, and I'll go in his room and I'll see him just have the screen on, and he's watching the market on players. Seeing what players he can get at a low price and then trade them off, for more value. So I think the gaming has definitely come along in a sense to where it's more of an educational tool, as opposed to just pure entertainment value. But in terms of esports, I'm with you, man. I've seen a lot of positive coming from it, and actually I would encourage everybody to check out an event if you haven't, because it's something special.
I'll take the pessimist view, because all you do here is positive. I think it could be the pessimist and it could be the optimist, depending on how you're looking. It's the Wild Wild West. You hear that a lot. It's uncharted waters. So with that comes some chaos. In chaos, sometimes there's opportunity. Sometimes there's also failures, and sometimes you need to fail before you succeed. So I think that could be a little bit of it. There are some people out there, and we had some here today that we'll talk about it after us, that are on the front lines. And Ryan is, and obviously that's why he's so positive on it. I'm positive on it. But yeah, I'd say it's the Wild Wild West in the sense that it's not everyone knows exactly what it is. The people that do know it's something special. The people that have money want to get in on it. All the pro sports teams. But that would be the pessimist view.
Yeah, I would just take it a slightly different direction. I think from a business standpoint, the numbers are incredible. I think it's a great opportunity for lots of reasons. But from a societal standpoint, when I think about raising my son in this world where gaming is becoming more and more relevant, it's kind of scary to me to think that the amount of hours that kids are spending behind the screen. And so, I think from a different standpoint, there's some challenges there, and making sure that kids are still getting out, getting dirty, getting out there and playing. And it'll be interesting to see where those paths cross, because there's a lot of folks out there playing Fortnite right now, and instead of playing on the playground. So
Well, just to close it out, I think esports is the perfect answer to a lot of the questions that people were asking. I mean, in terms of a sport that's much larger than a lot of people give it credit for, and has great growth potential, and has the opportunity to embed gambling and gaming in itself, and that becomes, as people begin to pay attention to it, becomes part of the culture, more of an automatic, more of a tradition. Fewer rules that are in place already. No Pete Roses. None of the dirt that touches the other sports. I mean, that can be the great horizon in terms of the demographic that's engaged in it now. That's going to be the demographic of the future as gaming becomes part of society. So I think that there's a lot at play there that you'll hear much about, and this wasn't set up in this kind of way, throughout the rest of the morning in the panels that are forthcoming. So let's thank our panelists for a great job.
Let's grab them out of the backstage area.